Welcome to the channel where all you gotta do is change your own tires. So, I've had this Harbor Freight tire changer for a few years now, and it costs like $37, so I can't be too critical, but it is a pile of shit. It just should be thrown in the dumpster. That's my assessment of it. So, I mean, it does change tires, but it almost destroys them. Like, this is what you clamp the tire down with. Like, it's just gonna fuck up the rim. I don't know. I'll use it for spare parts on something else, but for $37, not much of a loss. I did get one of my trailer tires remounted with it, but it wouldn't, there's no air fluffer on it, so unless you want to use carburetor cleaner, it's yeah, it's sitting over here. It's been sitting outdoors for a while. There she is, brand new tire on the old rim, but can't seat the bead, so doesn't really help. So I did the right thing, and I went on Facebook Marketplace. I found me an old Hunter machine. So there's lots of these things available on eBay or Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace, which I kind of prefer. It's easier. But they're usually gigantical. Big monstrosities, heavy. Just this one's pretty small. This is a Hunter 150, TC150. Well, it does all the giblets you need it to do, but it doesn't take up a lot of room, which is good. There's all the giblety stuff down there, little chain drivey thing, little coupler. I'll get into more details later, but this is the main chinkadera that's helpful, right? Hit the button. It's got a big tank in here, big valve, blows down fast, gauges. So anyway, I got this guy, and it came with some bits. Obviously it needs some bits, a little holder downer thing, and an anti-mar doodad, main bar, a little condom for it. And on the way, this is about 100 miles away from home, and on the way there, look what happened. Yeah, that I don't understand how people can drive with a trailer hooked up and completely shred the tire, because this little trailer with this one tire fucked up shook the shit out of that almost 8,000 pound excursion. Like, there is no possible way you could drive more than 5 miles without having a headache. So, I don't know how people do it, but I've seen it numerous times, shredded to shit. But anyway, I think this might be my first culprit. I'll have to be careful not to cut myself again on this. That's nice. It's got a Delrin sleevey on there, and a duck bill. Not sure how that's gonna. I think this requires it to still slide on the rim, but I probably can fancy something up, making that slot smaller. So, and then these are like if you have really wide wheels. Somebody made some adapters. Looks like. Anyway, and then this guy. This is actually quite helpful when you're trying to seat the bead. You need to have you take the valve out of the valve stem here. Yeah, you unscrew the little valve, and then put that on there like that, and it makes air go the other way, but Then when you seat the bead, it's already got some air flowing in it. So that's a nice little guy there. This is probably perished, but that gauge might need recalibration of sorts. Anyway, so we'll get this thing set up, and he said it worked, but you know how that works. When parked, and of course it's been parked outside in not the coolest area on the planet, so I might need to get some new hosers on there, whatnot. Really nice tie down though. I did a good job on that. Nothing came loose. It's fine. Another thing that I noticed while I was driving there is I redecked my trailer, and these boards can't fall out, so I didn't bolt them down. Yeah, mistake. When you're driving along, they pretty much make that noise the whole time. Annoying. So I'm gonna bolt these down now. This is an information channel, so you redeck your trailer, bolt it down better. So I'll be doing that. Maybe I'll make these gaps even. Who knows? Welcome back. So I got this old Hunter tire changer 150. As usual, you buy stuff, it doesn't work, so I'll just give you the brief synopsis of it. But basically all these hoses down here were disconnected, and so I had to science out where they went. But basically the way this works is this pedal rotates the machine one direction, this pedal rotates the machine the other direction. The directions are on that thingy right there, so it was pretty easy to figure out. And they were hooked up. This one was hooked up to the wrong direction, this one wasn't hooked up at all, and then this thing was disconnected. So let me go through how this works. I turned the air off, but I can turn it back on, I suppose. But so basically it has this throw out arm right here. It's kind of like a clutch throw out on that guy. And anytime this arm over here for breaking beads is out, it opens up a switch right here. Not really a switch, but an air valve. And so as soon as that thing moves out of the way, it puts air to this cylinder right here, and then this thing engages this little face spline jobber. And the only time this will engage is when you push this pedal. When you push this pedal, it doesn't engage because it loops through that first. So that was hooked up all backwards, because this thing has to pull, it has to spin the right direction to pull on this chain to pull this thing over. So I got all that hooked up correctly. This valve wasn't working at all, so I think that's why they disconnected it. So I just took it apart and cleaned it. There was a bunch of rusty shit looking stuff in there, so I just cleaned it out, blew it out, lubed it up, put it back together. This one worked fine the whole time, so that one's hooked up correctly now. But now, oh yeah, one other tidbit of information. It had this hose here that was perished, so I kind of contrapted up this little thing, the gauge I had laying around, and this is just to fill the tire up. So I put a new this guy on it because the other one didn't work. So that's when you're seating the bead. Yeah, see, it came with a package of 2. And then I put a regulator on this and hook these hoses up to it. I'm going to make this fancier later. I got more hose, so I'm going to rewire this, or whatever it's called, pneumatic wire. There's the little valve I was talking about that for the bead breaker. So it goes through that in series. But this thing here is the tank that powers these little air nozzles to get it to seat the bead, which is the main reason I need this thing, because the Harbor Freight one is a piece of shit, but it doesn't work because you can't, yeah, it doesn't have that. So anyway, this valve over here, it's a full foot pedal, the 2-stage. So one stage, you push it down a little bit. I don't know if you can see the action there, but it's got a little spring, so it goes that far. And that just puts air to fill the tire up, and then you go farther and it opens a big valve, which is that guy right there that comes off the, I don't know, 2.5 gallon compressed air tank. So that's not working. It's making noise, like when I push that lever all the way down, air whooshes from somewhere on this valve here. I don't know where, but so I'm not sure exactly how that works. I'll probably take it apart and kind of science it out. I can't find anything online manual wise on these things, but it's pretty darn simple. You can kind of look at it and go, oh yeah, I see how that works. Works like that. Which is how I figured out where all the hoses went, because they were, you know, disconnected or connected into the wrong thing. So you can kind of look at this mechanical system and go, oh, I see what they're doing. Unlike new stuff where it's embedded software that you have no idea what's going on inside. And then this thing here, this is the other little valve. This actuates this guy down. So you pull this little knobby out. It's turned off right now, but you turn the knobby down, and then that makes it the tire can't move. Okay, so pretty sure this is not supposed to be leaking. I gotta figure out why, but I think it's just dirt in that valve. But when you push this down halfway, just put that on there, make it shut up a little bit. This guy here actuates that, so that's working. That's working properly. That does leak a bit, which I don't really like. And then when you push this down, well, that spins counterclockwise, just like it says on there. That spins clockwise. So this little guy goes on here. So all that's well and good. But this blow down valve nothing coming out of here, so I pop this valve off, figure out why that is. So I don't know what this thing looks like, but inside, but basically it's got a little adjuster mechanism here. So it hits this one first, and then it hits this one, I guess, and that feels fucked up. I don't know if you can see that. This one kind of, this one flips and flops all over the place. So I don't know if it's supposed to be like that, but we're going to take it apart and find out. So, and then this is the stop, somewhat. So the way this works is, when you push your foot down, it goes down, the spring's in there, and you can feel it hitting this spring, which is a heavier spring. So that's the one that goes to putting air in the tire. That's where this goes, air into the tire. So, and then it hits the second one, and then it blows air to this guy. So this is pressurized air directly from the regulator, and then from there, the first activation of the switch goes here, which goes to fill the tire up. And then this opens this, when it hits the second one, it fills the tire up and goes to this, which opens the valve to do the little spray nozzle thingies. So this is all yucky, so I'm probably going to throw it in the solvent tank, but first things first, let's get it apart. Nothing in here looks terrible. It all looks really good, actually. This one has all this movement here is supposed to be like that, because this one's in a blind hole essentially. So when you open this valve up, all the air comes out in between this spring. That's the release. All right, so I'm back. So it turns out this was, the hose clamp was tight, but the hose, you could just swivel it around. So I'm going to shorten that about yay long and put it back on so that doesn't leak. And then, yeah, let's pop this valve apart and see if we can't figure out why it's not operational. Ooh. Okay. I don't know what that is, but I think it could be affectionately called broken. Or I think it's just solidified rust. I don't think that's actually a part of the thing. Oh, I could be wrong. It's decomposing plastic. So this is pressurized, so this little port from there to there pressurizes this whole outside area. And then this thing sits on there like that, right? And then a spring holds it closed. So I think how this works is this has pressure in it as well, right? Because there's nothing stopping it from going out here. But once you open this valve up, the rushing air from here to there makes this spring compress, and then it opens this port. And I think the reason it didn't work was either this wasn't sealing, or the air rushing through it just broke this little kind of umbrella shape off of here. It's not very umbrella-y. And then it didn't open up. So when you, or it could have been just stuck too, but so that thing sits in there like that. As soon as you relieve the pressure on this side, air rushes through, pops it open, and then it's the same pressure on both sides. And then as soon as you close this valve, there's no air going, around that thing and out that way. So the pressure is equalized, and then this spring has an advantage and closes it. So that's how this guy works. Okay, so I got this in my solvent tank. Cleaned it up. Looks like brand new. Same with this guy. Well, it doesn't look brand new, but it's cleaned up. And I took all the giblets apart and I kind of documented what O-rings are there. So I didn't replace any of them yet, but if there's one leaking, I can just go back and go, oh, that's that size O-ring, and then I'll order it from the O-ring people. I'm gonna put a little lube on this guy, put it back together. Same thing with that and that. There's an O-ring in here. So I'll just throw this thing back together. I also got a new valve. Quick exhaust is what it's called, actually. It's a blow-off valve or a blow-down valve, or anyway, the technical term for it is a quick exhaust. We used to use those when I worked at Haas doing tool release pistons, because it's got quite a bit of volume in the tool release piston, because it's using 100 psi air to make a 3,000 pound compressed 3,000 pound spring or so for the drawbar. So in order to make it happen quickly, you used a little solenoid that relieved the pressure of the quick exhaust, and then that opened the big valve. Exactly I may have to adjust this quick exhaust a little bit more. We'll see. Now that I know how it functions, it should be relatively easy to adjust it. So this new quick exhaust. Quite a bit shinier than the old one, but has the same number on it, 522. Get this valvenator back in. And this is the first. This is to let air to pump the tire up, and then that's to activate the bead seating arrangement. Okay, so this is what I came up with. Just took that bracket off and found a couple of hose clamps, and it's nice and sturdy, so I can plug the hose into it and crank the pressure up and down without any issues. So that ought to work just fine. So I used to have this guard right here so people don't bash into it, and then this thing was up here. I'm going to switch these around. I'm going to put this down here. Put the guard above it. But basically, this is the hose I took off of the blow-off valve, and this clamp was tight, but this was just spinning on it. So that's the problem with these worm clamps. They don't compensate for temperature, or, you know, this is made out of plastic, so it's going to have some creep. So over the years, this thing stayed in the same spot, and this thing got hot and cold, hot and cold, hot and cold, so it shrunk a little bit. So, of course, it didn't seal as good as it could have. That's why a lot of automotive manufacturers use those spring clamps, which are called constant force clamps. Which is kind of a misnomer, but the reason they're called constant force is they're supposed to, when they get hot and cold, they're supposed to get, you know, they kind of contract a little bit when it gets cold and expand a little when it gets hot. So, whereas these guys, they're stiffer than a wedding dick, so they don't really go anywhere. They just stay the same size, and as the stuff around them gets bigger and smaller, they don't compensate. So you can get some leaks in cold weather, and hot weather. It can actually cause the hose to creep a little bit. Anyway, so let's get this big beast here back into its resting place. So this guy, it's way easier to wrestle with it like this than it is inside the machine. See, now that I cut a little bit off of that sucker, it fits pretty nice. Alright, lots of free. Well, while I'm here, I'm going to make sure this guy's tight. Yeah, see that there? The clamp's tight, but that thing just jiggles around.
So, while I'm in here, I'm going to shorten that hose. A tiny bit. Alright. So this little cover goes on here. What the fuck was that? Oh, nice. That is fatigued and broke. Look at that. And this side's not much better. Anyway, as I was saying, there's a bulkhead fitting up here. Now, this thing was kind of wobbly. I don't know if you can see that. As I was putting this back together, this little nut plate thingy, and this fatigued off. So I'll probably want to weld that back on, because this thing here is it's kind of wobbly. It just bolts on like with these two bolts, so the whole thing just kind of flippity flops around. Because there's two bolts down there that just go to here, and there's nothing tying it into these guys. So I probably want to fix that anyway, but that's why these things are fatiguing. Every time you move this thing, it's going to jiggle around a lot. So I'm going to have to address that. Okay, back to the comfort and safety of the shop. So what I'm going to do, take this piece of 1/8 inch plate and do a little bit of tracing here. So I'll cut this plate out, and then I'll weld some nuts to the back side of this. Drill some holes in first, obviously. Weld the back side of that. Drill a hole out for this pass through to go through. Bulkhead fitting. And then we'll clamp that all together so it'll sandwich the broken pieces. Alright, so the next endeavor on this project is, this is just a gauge I had laying around. It's probably supposed to be bigger, but whatever, it can be good enough. So I just need to mount it in there. So the hose that comes from the machine goes through this little pass through and up into there. And then this guy here goes to the tire filler upper machine. So I guess it doesn't have to though. I guess I could go through this little hole here. Anyway, I think I'm going to do it like that. So I'll probably just put in a dowel clamp here and here, and clamp it around there and clamp it around there, and then that'll be good enough. Next
endeavor is got this little soap bottle. And, oh man, doesn't fit for shit in there. Feels like a terrible place for them. Gotta reach really far over for it. Whatever, I guess that's where it goes. So I'm gonna have to pop that little circle thing off of there and make it fit the square thing. Yeah, got a little basketball hoop. So we'll take that in the shop and force it into submission. Okay, so I made a circle into I don't know what that is, a rhombus maybe? Doesn't matter what it is, because that guy sits in there now. Boink! Perfection. Or something. And then this guy is like, there's a little bit of a gap in there when it's in, and it closes up when it's kind of holds tight. Just like it was drawn up on the chalkboard. Okay, so now that I got the thing all fixed up, I figured I would use it for something. So this is the tire that was on the trailer when I went to pick it up. I'm just breaking the bead now. Stick it on there. Tighten up the little clampy thing. Lube it up so it's nice and slippery. Come on, get in there. Womp. And done. In a record number of time. So I made this little schematic of what all the pneumatic lines go to and from. So hopefully this will be, I didn't spend a lot of time on it, but hopefully this will be useful to somebody. I tried to make it as clear as possible with pictures. If there's any questions, shoot me something in the messages and I think I'll probably be all cleared up pretty easily. Thanks for watching. If you like this content and want more, subscribe, like, and share.